Lace 'em up, let's start the show. We're digging in with Trev. 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 We're digging in with Trev today, yeah.
Well, you want to talk about a player who aged in every sense like a fine wine in his career. In this case, like a Mouton Rothschild. You might as well call Mouton Trevor. Trevor Daley seemed to get better and better, more impactful every year. Is a key cog in back-to-back Stanley Cup championships for the Pittsburgh Penguins in a salary cap era. Just unbelievable. Always skated like the wind. Effortless, seamless, powerful, just gliding up and down the ice. We're going to dig in momentarily with Trevor. What a human being. As he's just ended his outstanding NHL career, and we'll get involved in management for the Pittsburgh Penguins. We're going to talk to Trevor. This is going to be a fun one. This is going to be a powerful one. Some of the bigger than hockey issues that he has central involvement in that can change the game for the better forever. So we're going to talk to Trevor. We're going to grab our shovels and dig in momentarily. But first of all, we want to do something we always do. And I'm not going to get on my knees, but I'm close to it. Please dig in, fans. Rate and review our show on all audio and YouTube platforms. Let us know how we're doing. Thank you so much for all of you that dug in deep and supported digintrip.com, our merchandise site. We were able to make a donation to the Pope Francis Center right down the road here in Detroit, people that who need it the very, very most. Thanks to all of you as we have just passed New Year's and marched into 2021. So thank you so much for your support on that front. The New Country Auto Group. Boy, they have been with us since some of these vintages were still grapes. That's how loyal they've been. NewCountry.com. Dealerships ranging from elite automotive manufacturers like BMW, Porsche, Mercedes, Ferrari. They are just about to open the finest Ferrari dealership in the United States in Naples, Florida. Nobody even comes close to New Country's. Just about to cut the ribbon in Naples, their Ferrari dealership. Smart car. If you have a mini-me type, speaking of Austin Powers mindset when it comes to your automotive ride. You're covered anywhere, but in particular in New York, in Connecticut, in Pennsylvania, in Maryland, in Florida. They are the best. They're family owned. They check every box. NewCountry.com. They've always dug in with us. So without further ado, here in the Nectar of the Gods portion of the house here in Pure, Michigan, we go to a guy that, he was as satisfying as one of your favorite nectars. Let's dig in with Trevor Daley. My longtime friend and brother, Trevor Daley. It's weird to call you Trevor as I welcome you to Digging In. And so I'm going right to Dales because that's what I've always called you. Dales, how do you, when you really think about it, whether it be hockey, life, how do you define digging in?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me on this. Obviously, real privilege to be on here with you, Trip. So excited for it. But digging in is, somebody that every day brings whatever it takes, and in any type of situation on and off the ice, doing the right things away from the game, obviously leads to doing the right things, during the game. So, it's a very, very, very good terminology. But I look at that digging in as both sides. It's got to be off the ice and on the ice.
Let's go back to the beginning. Tell me about life in suburban Toronto. How you got involved in hockey in the first place? At what age? Take it from the top.
Well, I grew up, with a pretty big family, a huge supporting cast. It wasn't just my mom raising me. I had, grandma, grandpa, aunts, uncles, I was pretty fortunate that way. I had a big supporting cast. My dad was around. He just wasn't love him to death. This wasn't a father figure. So, I looked other places for that. Had an uncle that helped raise me, and from day one, he was, the role model, the male influence that I wanted to take after. He played hockey in Toronto, in the MTHL. He was with Don Mill Flyers. And as a young kid, I would always go watch him play. I didn't start hockey till relatively late. I was 6 years old when I started playing. But I just wanted to do everything he did. He was my role model. He was the guy I wanted to be like. So starting hockey at 6 was late, but I had grandpa buy me skates, gloves, shoulder pads. I think it was back then you got a starter kit trip at Canadian Tire. I think it had everything other than skates in it. The essentials that you needed, and probably got a stick from the gas station. When my mom filled up her car, I think they had those blue buckets of sticks there in the middle, and you got one of those. So I think that's where it started, and that's how I started playing hockey. That's from the grassroots, I guess.
Okay, Dale's contrary to probable and popular belief, I do some prep for these Digging In episodes, and I did speak with our mutual brother, Kevin Shady 80 Weeks, and he told me to ask about Uncle Donald. You were just talking about your uncle. It was this Uncle D, and tell me more about him.
Yeah, no, Uncle Donald was special. He taught me not only to be a hockey player, he taught me to be a good person. Growing up in the city, there was a lot of away from the game distractions that he was a big part of. As a young kid, not getting into those distractions. You have friends in the neighborhoods I grew up in, that probably weren't doing the right things, and my Uncle Donald was the one that made sure that he let me know what was right and what was wrong, and he never said don't hang out with them. He just said don't do what they're doing. So street smarts, things like that. That's all my uncle. Whether it was going out to an outdoor rink and him telling me I could only make passes on my backhand today, or whatever it was. He had a key to one of the rinks he worked at. There was Zamboni drivers that the city provided to keep the ice damp for us. So we were pretty lucky growing up in the city. There was lots of in the wintertime, there's lots of rinks around, and we would just find the best skates to go to and have fun at the outdoor rinks. Most Canadians say they grew up on ponds and outdoor rinks and skated on the water. I had actually growing up in the city, I had a numerous number of outdoor rinks that I grew up on.
Yeah, come to think of it, as I analyzed your games in Dallas, Chicago, Pittsburgh throughout your tremendous NHL career, you always handled pucks well with pressure on the backhand. We can credit Uncle D with that. But now Uncle Donald, I believe, was a defenseman. Now, were you always a defenseman or no?
No, I was actually, he was a defenseman. I was actually a forward right up until my, basically until my OHL draft year. I was a forward. My OHL draft year was my first year. I was with the Vaughan Vipers. I played defense as a 15-year-old. The team wasn't very good. It was back in, I think Michael Camilleri was one of the guys I played against. He was on Bramalea, and they were the best team in junior, and they would beat us probably 15, 16 goals, but it was a good experience for me because as a young guy I got to play a ton of minutes and grow. But that was my first year playing defense, full year playing defense. I tinkered with it a little bit, but and then got drafted to the Sioux as a defenseman that year.
Yeah. Before we get to your Ontario Hockey League portion, I want to ask you, I'm going to tell you a really quick, well, do I ever tell a quick story? But I'm going to try to land the plane quickly, partner. Another former Dallas star who played for Carolina. Boy, what a run he had in the bubble. Anton Hudobin. And he and I used to argue because our mutual friend, another guy that came on digging in, Timmy Thomas. Timmy and I grew up here in Detroit playing against each other. And then he was at Vermont when I was at Harvard. And we had a great, actually almost a borderline rivalry. He's a lifelong friend now. And Anton at one point goes to me, goes, you know what, Trip? Timmy and I, we have an advantage that you just don't have. I said, okay, Dobie, what's that? And he said, we grew up with nothing. And so we have a desperation, that you just didn't have. And I thought a very good argument. I said, no, that's wrong. That's wrong. I may have grown up. I grew up with privilege, but the reason I only made the NHL for one game, Dales, is not because I wasn't desperate. I wasn't willing to dig in and what it took. I just mentally, I didn't have it at the highest level. I didn't think. And I'm still waiting for the growth spurt that never happened. My question to you is, because I've never heard you since you've been my dear friend complain about it, but the fact that being able to even get equipment, things like that, and chase your hockey dream was difficult. Can you paint a picture of what that was like and how that became an advantage as you moved from youth hockey to junior and then upwards and onwards from there?
Yeah, it goes back to basically what I say today about the kids. The game's really expensive, and it's unfortunate that the game's so expensive because you don't necessarily have the best athletes playing hockey today. You have the richest kids playing hockey today, and that's kind of the way the industry is taking it. But I had resources. I had like I said earlier, my mom wasn't able to buy me a new pair of skates because I grew so much as a kid. I had all my growing when I was really young because I stopped growing pretty quick. So it was just a quick phone call to grandma and grandpa. Trevor needs new skates. He's growing out his skates. And grandma and grandpa were okay. Send them down. We'll go take them, get new skates. So, and did I go without? I never went without. My mom, my mom worked strictly for her kids and provided for her kids. I always, I look back now that, mom's gone. If I could be half the parent that she was, I think I'm going to do a pretty good job with my kids now. So she was a strong lady. Nothing got by her. She lived for me and my little sister to make sure we never went without. She went without, but she made sure we never went without. And something that you don't really take that stuff in consideration when you're young, or even when you're you've been given everything, and you don't really take that stuff in consideration until you actually have your own kids, and you could the first time that they cause trouble, or and then you're like, oh, what did my mom do back then? And I can't do what she did back anymore. Not unfortunately, but she was a special lady, and if I had a lot of great people in my life, but looking back, you just wish you got more time, or you got to thank her a little bit more. So no regrets, but I wish I did get to have more time.
Yeah, it's I was just in getting ready. It was, and I've talked to your dear friend and captain Sidney Crosby about giving you the Stanley Cup first, as your mom was experiencing her last days. God rest her soul. Dales, as a hockey parent and a parent, period. So 2 different categories, and maybe it's a story that you'd be willing to share. What would you tell me to make the argument that your mom, Trudy, God rest her soul, was the greatest mom on the planet?
Oh my, where do you want me to start?
Well, we got time.
We got time. You know what? She became the manager of all my teams, and she became the manager because at the start, it helped with the payment because she was the manager. She was able to get a little bit off of my because she did the work. So they rewarded our family with maybe a little less on the finance side. But once people got to know her and got to meet her, she was going to be the manager the whole time. Everybody, loved her, respected her. She just had a thing about her that she was easy to get along with, but you didn't want to get on her bad side because it was going to be ugly if you did. And I think people respected her for that. She was just a strong lady. I'll tell you a funny story. I had a kid on my team, an Oriental kid on my team. We were getting out of the elevator in my apartment building with my little sister, and there was a drunk guy at the bottom of the floor. We were on the 4th floor. We're coming down in the elevator, and it was my mom, my buddy, myself, my little sister, and the guy was so drunk he pulled my little sister out of the elevator. He said something very not great. And I remember my buddy, like just scared. Like what's this guy gonna do? My mom dropped everything she had in her hand, and this guy was standing in the elevator, and she must have kicked him 50 times, Trip. I'm not even joking. And I remember my buddy Mike Swift, and he was sitting like, we walked away after, and he was like, "Oh my God, Mrs. Daley, you're the toughest person I've ever seen before in my life." This stuff like that. Obviously, growing up in the neighborhoods I grew up in, you had to deal with things like that. But she at the rink, she got the street credit from like Mike went to the rink and told the kids at the rink what happened, and that was early on in my hockey, and she carried that for a long time, and so nobody ever messed with her.
I'm surprised you didn't go into kickboxing. Dales, so, and please help fact check me on this. I mean, you played in the OHL at a very, very young age. Was college ever a consideration, or what made it the choice? Because you're a very educated guy. What made the OHL the right decision for you?
Well, you know what? I think just growing up at those times, you a little bit different than it is now, Trip. You see a lot of college kids coming out, but back then, especially being an Ontario kid, the OHL was just so much in your face, and that's what you wanted to do. College was when I was in junior. I got some letters from some colleges, and my mom was very excited about that. And I was like, "Mom, I don't know if that's for me." And, I don't think back then we got as educated about, the NCAA route than the kids do today, and I think that's a big part, because I ain't going to lie to you. If I'd known back then what I know today, I may have went to Arizona State.
Ooh, yeah.
It's a tough one to turn down, Trip.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, God, yes.
You're 18 years old. Arizona State, like, "Hey, why don't you come to our school?" It's like, oh, you're from Sudbury, Ontario, or something. Like, that's a pretty good selling thing there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I could see you hanging out with a cactus, or plural for cactus. Dale's hanging out with a cacti. Sault Ste. Marie. I want to say you played 4 seasons there. How would you say from your first year to when eventually you left to go pro, what were the biggest areas that you grew as a player and a person?
It was, it was, a ton. That's kind of when you go from a 15-year-old to getting drafted to not really knowing, what it's going to be like. And I remember, when the Sioux interviewed me, I remember my mom being like, it's the farthest possible place you could go. You're not going there. And I'm just like, Mom, like, we don't have a choice. Like, it is what it is. And when they drafted me, I just wanted to go play hockey. I didn't care where it was. And I honestly, I didn't know much about Sault Ste. Marie. I really didn't. I kid from the city going to Sault Ste. Marie. My mom was a little nervous for it. I ain't gonna lie, for a lot of different reasons. But it was, if I could go back, minus Stanley Cups, I would do anything to go back to those days. Trip. I had such a great time there. What an amazing place to play hockey. If you want to go to a place and you're like a mini NHL superstar, Sault Ste. Marie's a spot, because they eat, sleep. It's ingrained in that city. It's hockey. They love their Greyhounds. I just got to talk to actually that team a week ago, and how special it is to be a Sioux Greyhound. If you look at the guys that have played in the Sioux, the list is long and big, and there's some pretty good hockey players that came out of there.
Oh,
not bad.
Yeah, boy. Having been in Carolina for as long as I have, I remember, a captain as a broadcaster that I covered a good portion of his career, a former Greyhound by the name of Ron Francis.
Not bad. Another name too that you guys would know very well. It's very, very special. We've lost him now, but he was my roommate actually in my first year. Was Joseph Vastrachuk. So it's another great name too that came out of the Sioux.
First of all, Joseph Vastrachuk, I will miss his smile forever. And it etched in my memory is, again, we've mentioned Kevin Weeks and how important it was in Hurricanes history, because tied 2-2, Kevin Weeks made a save on a 2-on-1 against New Jersey. Excellent Jersey team on John Madden. Canes lose that game. They're losing the series. And Big Joe then scored the overtime winner. The Canes went on to win the series. And his smile, and I'm trying to remember, one of the boys has since departed as well. These twins or brothers. Did you know Nate? I know Nathan and these big Greyhound fans. Anyways, they used to come down to visit Joe in Carolina all the time.
I know exactly who you're talking about. Yes, Nathan and the other
Skyler?
brother, Skyler. Exactly. Yes, they were always huge Carolina fans. Yes.
Yeah, and just wonderful people. What an organization. Before we get to pro, a couple of things again. The time of the Sioux, you always have caught my attention as an analyst from the first inning of play that you move up and down the ice as a Greyhound. Did you have a particular skating coach growing up? Is there anything that you advise young boys and girls to try to improve their skating ability to really become a dominant skater as you were for so long?
Yeah, I never had a skating coach. I never went to a hockey school ever. There's no way my mom was letting me go to could find ways to get me to hockey school to pay for that. So I never had either. I had my Uncle Donald, and I loved to play hockey. I loved being out at the outdoor rinks. I would literally go from, if it was a Sunday early game, I would go to the game, come home, run up the street to Jimmy Simpson's, which was up the street from my house, and I'd be on the ice until they shut the lights off. So I never had a skating coach. I when I was growing up though, I used to try to to skate like everybody. I just like would watch everybody skate, and I would like, you know, in practices, you know, the guys that like look at the see themselves on the glass there. I would do that a lot to see if I could mimic the way guys skate. But I don't know if that related to something, if that turned into why I was able to skate pretty well. But I never had any instruction or anybody, you know, skating something like it's just natural. You know, you never really, nowadays they do it. You never really, you know, jump on the ice and say, I'm going to, you know, try to skate like this or do this. But at least for me, I didn't do it. But no skating coaches or never been to a hockey school.
Yeah, when you were looking at yourself in the glass, Zoolander, if there was one NHL player you liked the way that he skated, who was it?
I mean, there's two guys that I absolutely loved. Obviously, Paul Coffey was somebody that, you know, people always. But as I got to see guys skate, and I'm not saying this because I'm talking to you and you know, Carolina fans, but Henniken, Brett Henniken, am I right?
Roy Hobbs. Yeah, Roy Hobbs. Yeah, I call Roy Hobbs.
He's got to be like can I say sexy on here? He's got to be like the sexiest skater I've ever seen before. Like he's so smooth. Like I used to watch him skate and be like that's like the perfect, like how does he skate so perfect? Like, yeah, I always was like, does he even think about playing the game? Cause he skates so nice. I'm like, it was he's got to be like one of the nicest looking skaters I've ever seen before in my life.
Well, and, you know, and the reason I call him Roy Hobbs, and it's well documented in Carolina, because of course the first thing that got me, I remember when I was in college playing hockey and he was playing for Vancouver, that great run to the finals against New York. But then when he gets traded from Florida, and a big part of the team that went to the finals 2002, won in 2006, huge part, it's, you know, Brett Henniken could roll into a pub and make everybody swoon by playing the guitar and singing. He could not play golf for 6 or 7 months and go and shoot par or under. He obviously had some sexiness in the Olympics because he met his future wife, who could skate decently well by the name of Christy Yamaguchi. Yeah. So you haven't just made his week, year, you've made Roy Hobbs Brett Henniken's decade, because he's going to get this clip that Dales has called him sexy.
Oh
no. Speaking of sexy, one more question about the Sioux. Your beautiful future wife, mother of your 2 kids, she must have found you sexy because you met her during that portion. Can you tell me how you met your future wife, Christy?
Yes, I could. Yeah, I feel like this story comes out a lot now. So we had I seen her in pictures from a friend that I had up there, and I was always, you know, who's that? Never got to meet her. We had a stick boy in Sault Ste. Marie, my early days, by the name of Kyle Dubas. You might know him. He was our stick boy and a great guy, great kid. He was actually a locker. Their lockers were next to each other. When I asked him if he went to school with Christy, he's like, yeah, obviously we have lockers next to each other. We're in some of the same classes. I'm like, could you get her number? And he's like, yeah, sure. So he comes back the next day and he's like, Dale, she doesn't really date hockey players. I'm like, Doobie, I need her number. Could you please get it for me? And I think Kyle just gave me your number without even like asking her for it. So, but yeah, so on the bad days I have, I blame Kyle. But no, Kyle is he's a great. He's doing an amazing job. I'm not surprised where he's at right now. We kind of knew it back then. That he was going to be doing this at some point. So yeah, it's all Kyle's fault.
You must be a smooth operator because my man, Rod Brindamore's wedding. He has a couple of brothers. One of his brother, his name is Mish, and he makes Rod look like mini me. Okay, so we're in the wedding, and the wedding planner was very, very cute. Okay, and so we went to the rehearsal dinner, and I said to Rod's brother Mish, I said, I'd love to get her number. Okay, so we're sitting at the table, and he comes back like 10 minutes later, and he goes, "Here's her number." And I'm like, "Oh, perfect." I just assumed that he had asked her for permission. And I go home because the wedding's the next day, and I'm playing an early round of golf in like Greensboro, an hour and a half away with Glenn Wesley and Tom Barrasso. So I wanted to get to bed early. So I sent her a message, and I said, "You're going to be working all day." Rod's wife, Amy, helping her out. "Can I bring you a coffee from Starbucks or something?" I wake up at like 2:30. This is like 10 o'clock. I wake up at 2:30 in the morning, and you never want to receive a message like this. "What are you, some kind of creep? How did you get my number?" Mish Brindamore just went and grabbed her number from like another wedding planner without asking for permission. So even though Doobie, also known as Toronto General Manager Kyle Dubas, you obviously did some things a lot better than I did. That Christy didn't tag you as a creep the way I got tagged as a creep.
That's good.
Yeah. So perfect segue to the 2002 draft, because the Dallas Stars certainly didn't think you were a creep. Tell me, where was the draft that year, and was your mom right with you? Like, tell me right when you got selected. Tell me about that story.
Yeah, it was. It was kind of bittersweet because my mom it's kind of like, "I'm so happy, but you're going, 8 hours away from home, the farthest place you could possibly go." But just so excited, I'm so excited to. Funny, so you get drafted, and then it's not long before you got to go up for camp. We never really took flights. As a kid, I never was on a flight before, so I was a little nervous for getting on a plane going up to Sault Ste. Marie. Never mind that, but we got the itinerary. My mom, and I'm blaming my mom because I didn't get the itinerary. They sent it to her. She must have read the itinerary wrong because we never flew before. Anyways, the flight was at I think 8 a.m, and my mom, I didn't get on the flight because she thought it was like 5 o'clock. So she this went online and looked at the flight. She thought there was only one flight to Sault Ste. Marie, and it was like 5 o'clock. So she didn't know there was multiple flights. So the Sioux calls at like 12, and they're like, "Everybody, where are you? You're not." And my mom's like, he's sitting right here. They're like, "Well, he's not. Is he not coming? What's he doing?" And so I missed the flight going up to the Sioux. So it was a tough start for sure, but it definitely went very well.
Okay, so all right, so that's a great experience of your draft and then going to the Sioux for the first time in aerial fashion. Where was the 2002 NHL draft? Where was it, Dales?
Actually, that was in Toronto as well, too. Both of them were in Toronto.
Tell me.
Yeah.
Well, okay. So then can you tell me when the Dallas Stars, did you know they were going to pick you? Tell me about that moment you'll never forget.
Yeah, I'll never forget. Obviously something you never forget. I was, talking with Jerry Maguire and Bobby. I was ranked, anywhere from a late first rounder to I think it's a not even getting drafted trip. I don't even know. Like, it was kind of all over the place. We actually thought it was going to be Boston that I was going to go to. And then once, you're sitting there, once they pick, it's kind of I'm looking around. I wasn't sitting next to Jerry or Bobby, and I was like, I couldn't spot them because I had so many people there. I'm like, "Guys, what's going on here?" So as it gets into the second round, I think Dallas had 4 picks. I was Dallas's 4th pick in the second round. So they had a late first, and then they had 3 second round picks. And I was their 4th pick. And it was kind of, I had some good meetings with Dallas. I met with Les Jackson, who's one of the most special people that I have in hockey that I've ever met. And when they picked me, I'm like, I'm their 4th pick. I know I'm a second rounder, but I'm coming in as their 4th pick. I'm like, how much of these guys really like me, But yeah, obviously, you're so excited. Usually, you're being a second rounder. You're like their 2nd pick. I'm their 4th pick now. So, yeah, it was exciting, but at the same time, in the back of my mind, I'm like, how much of these guys really like me? So. Very, very special. Obviously, being in Toronto, we got to go back and celebrate back home after. So, no, very, very special time.
Yeah, and housekeeping for those of you wondering, as we mentioned Jerry Maguire throughout this episode, that is Paul Krapelka, Princeton guy, and not just an agent for Trevor through the years, but really a dear lifelong friend. Bobby Orr, who needs no introduction, and the other member of the Bobby Orr hockey group that represented Trevor Daley, Rick Curran. What do you remember about the challenge of making the Dallas team, and what veterans or who were the guys that really made the strongest impression on you? And I should mention, there is a question here from a guy who is a dear friend of yours by the name of Sidney Crosby. Trip, make sure you ask Dales about the role of Sergei Zubov in his career.
Yeah, so Zuby's I think, after Sid, I think Zuby's a close second of the best player I've ever seen before in hockey. So pretty Zuby was a special player, a guy that could play the game at his level. Like, when I talk about Brett Hedican, how sexy he skated, the way Zuby, controlled the play and kind of brought the game to his speed, because, Zuby was not a skater. He was not, he could skate. He was an amazing skater. But the way that he brought the game to his speed, there's really nobody in the game anymore, I think, that could do what he did at that point. Like, the game was played at his speed, which is, as a defenseman, it's mind boggling. Like, a funny Rick Wilson, our D coach, used to tell me to watch. His quote to me was, "Watch Zuby, enjoy Zuby, don't ever play like Zuby." So that was that's kind of my 2 cents about Sergei Zubov, but one of the greatest players I've ever had the privilege of playing with, and an amazing dude too. He's awesome. Loved. I got to hang out with him and his wife a few times. They're great people. So I think he's back in Dallas with the organization too. So good for him. And then the first part of your question was getting to Dallas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Dallas was obviously, the early 2000s, they won late in 99. It was a veteran team. I went in there, and the only other young guy was Steve Ott. We were the 2 young guys on the team for a long time. But the veteran guys in the game to learn, to become a good pro. I mean, like, where do you start? You had Billy Guerin, you had Pierre Turgeon, Jason Arnott, Mike Modano. I mean, Marty Turkle. Like, you could go on for days. A guy that I got to know really well, and I even lived with was Manny Malhotra, and he taught me a lot, just following him. He was a great pro. Obviously he's doing a great job coaching now. But I had so many, like, that's the thing about, like, that's what was so great about going into that organization is I had so many people to learn. My first roommate was Don Sweeney. He was the same age as my mom, and I told him that all the time. So it was, I was so fortunate that way. Obviously, as a player, it was tough to make that lineup. I obviously had to work and you had to become a pro right away, and being surrounded by, being surrounded by future Hall of Famers, because there's so many of them there. It was easy to learn what becoming a pro is all about.
Donnie Sweeney. Okay, so Donnie was several years ahead of me at Harvard, but he used to come back to our games. And I remember guys when I was in school, Ted Donato, Don Sweeney. You've always had an affinity for Harvard guys. What was Don Juan like he's done an excellent job in Boston. What was he like as a roommate? I'm guessing pretty serious.
He was, yes, he was there. I remember, I don't know if it's just me, like, having the respect for him, or, he never really, but I remember, like, there was nights where I'd be like, you get into, Vancouver and Dallas, we traveled so much. Back then we were in we were in different division. So the travel was even more. So you'd get into Vancouver, from whatever, Edmonton, you'd want to go out or something. And, I remember, if it was a loss, I would be, hey, Donald, do you think it's, I wanted to always call him Uncle Donald, to be honest with you. But, Donald, do you think it's okay if I go out with the boys, or is it tonight a good night? And he would, there's times where, probably not a good night tonight. So, it was, it was definitely having needless to say, it was definitely having a father figure around with Donald. But he's amazing. I still have a great relationship with him. I have a ton of respect for him, and I try to weigh on him a lot for decisions that I make, or whatever happens, and he's still a huge part in my life.
It's just uncanny, Dales, when you look at, the role of your Uncle Donald, of being a huge part with your mom, God rest her soul, of getting you into hockey. And now you're rooming with Uncle Donald, Don Sweeney, who, as I said, who's doing an outstanding job really in Boston, in my opinion. And that's with and without my Harvard bias, being a fellow Harvard guy. Mike Modano, I can remember a game. It was the regular season. You would have been on Dallas. The year that the Hurricanes ended up going and winning the franchise's only Stanley Cup. And I think Modano scored in a shootout. We had a back-to-back and against the Coyotes the next night. And I just remember one shift during the game, and I don't remember another player like this. You're talking about skating with Brett Hedekins, sexiness. The guy, I've never seen a jersey just naturally flow when he'd go up and down the ice. Dales, I enjoyed watching you skate through your entire career. Why do you think Mike Modano, from your vantage point, was such a gifted skater?
Because not only was Mike Modano a gifted skater, and he could fly too. He was so fast. But the thing about Mike was he could do some guys have to slow down to make plays, catch pucks, or to, Mike was able to do everything at full speed, whether it was, make a pass, take a pass, make a move. Everything he did he was at full speed. And that was so special to watch him every day. It's, he could fly down the wing. His feet never stopped moving, and he could zip, like, he had such a good shot too. And he was just able to do everything at top speed that, not too many guys were able to do.
Yeah, it's boy, was it ever a treat to watch him play for so many years. A true worth the price of admission treat. So after,
Absolutely.
you were a great Dallas Star, Dales. You briefly go to Chicago, and then you find your way to the Pittsburgh Penguins. Again, this question comes from Sidney Crosby. He's getting involved in the show today. He's getting involved. He said, why was the way the Penguins played such a good fit for you?
Well, to rewind a little bit, going to Chicago, I went to Chicago with the mindset that, these guys just won 3 cups in 5 years. They just finished winning a Stanley Cup. I really wanted to go in there and see what these guys were doing. They had to be doing something right. What an amazing group. Like, there's a reason why those guys won 3 cups in 5 years. Like, these guys were good. These guys were good in every which direction you could even imagine. Good people, good players. It was so unfortunate that things didn't work out there. But going into Pittsburgh, the thing, I found about going into Pittsburgh at the time I went in was we were all experiencing the same thing. I went into a situation where I just wanted a fresh start. They just, they fired Johnson and brought in Mike. I think the day before. So everybody was wanting this fresh start, and then they already had the pedigree. They already, they were already a team that knew how to win, that won. They had that core group of guys there that they just knew. And I think, just the changing of the guard and maybe a different message, and then kind of a little bit of let's figure this out came into play. And to be honest with you, the guy that's asking all these questions right now, he was on a different planet. Like, I don't even know what planet that guy went to. Like, he was so good. And in order to win in this league today, you need your best players to be your best players, and you need, everybody else to follow that. And a guy named Sidney Crosby, right away, you just have that, that stinger with you. So we followed his lead. Everybody knew their role on the team. There was no, I want this, I want that. It was, what do I need to do in my role that I need to get done, and how do I need to get that done? So everybody knew what they were doing. It wasn't a secret. And I think, we ran with it. We had that team confidence, that team swagger, where we knew we were gonna, if we're down 2 goals going in the third, we just knew we were gonna come back and win. And having, guys like Sid G, Tanger, Flower was unbelievable. I think that kind of goes without saying too. And then you had, veteran guys, Cooney, Cully, Bones, guys that knew how to win. So it was just, you had everything going your way. And in order to win in today's game, you need not only you need everybody on your team going, and everybody, you need some bounces going your way. You need some luck, definitely. And we got that.
To clean up a couple of the patented hockey nicknames, Chris Kunitz, Nick Bonino, Matt, as I call him, Big Daddy Cullen, because he spent some time in Carolina.
Yep.
You mentioned Billy Guerin as an influential guy in Dallas. Billy was just on Digging In. And among other things, Billy said that Sidney Crosby is culture when I asked him about culture. And let's really dig in here, Dales, because you have an extremely close relationship and always will with Sidney. Beyond the fact that he's going to go down whenever he calls it a day, hopefully many years from now, as one of the greatest that's ever played the game, as a player and as a person, why is he on a different level? Give me something good, and maybe it's a story that epitomizes who he is, but you have as good of a perspective as anybody on the planet.
Well, it's Sidney's, he's which is hard to believe, but he's a better person than he is a player, believe it or not. And honestly, I'll say that, I'll tell anybody that, the guy's he's just a special human being. All, his game, hockey aside, he's just a great person. And it's, it's somebody that carries that much weight that Sid carries. It's just so special to watch him, because he seems like he's just like naive to it. Like, it's like you're Sidney Crosby, and it's just like, he's just trying to, like, well, how's your day today? Like, so he's a special human being. And, me being the way I am, I relate, my bringing up a lot to my mom, and I always said about Sid is he's got a good mom, that's for sure. So, and he does. So, that's all his mom right there. But, no, he's special. He's obviously he's going to be one of the greatest players that ever played this game. He'll be in the conversation, for many years to come. I love the guy. I think he's obviously, what he's done for the game and who he is. It's just, he's a guy that, my kids, I want to say, not watch him, but be like him, because he's a good person.
Mm-hmm. And en route to the first of your 2 consecutive Stanley Cups, my brother, you were playing terrific, and you get hurt in the conference finals against Tampa. If you wouldn't mind, your mom, Trudy, I would have loved to have had her as a manager on my youth hockey team that you spoke about earlier. You got hurt. Can you tell me, as you went on to beat Tampa and then you were going to play San Jose in the Stanley Cup Finals, can you tell me how you spent that time, and how you never want to get injured? You're searching for your first Stanley Cup, but how it allowed you to spend some time with your mom?
Yeah. So crazy, Trip, how things work out. Looking back at it now, at the time, obviously so disappointed, because I thought, my game was going really well for myself. And obviously what our team was doing was pretty incredible. So, to not be a part of it anymore in, the fashion of being out there with the guys. But my mom, we played the Rangers the first series, and my mom came to the first game. And then when she got home is when she got sick. So after that series, I knew it was really bad. So, Jim and Mike both, I let them know, and I asked them so it wasn't a distraction, just if I could just run home for the day and come back. And they allowed me to do that. I did that, between the first 2 series. I was running home real quick to see her, and then coming back, and then, after the Tampa game, it was obviously, we were in Tampa, and, we got home, we got back, and I remember Mike saying, just go spend time with your mom and then see her, and then, be here whenever you want to be here. And so I would be in Pittsburgh when the team was in Pittsburgh, but when they would leave, I would go see my mom. So, in hindsight, looking back, and obviously the very next year, getting a chance to hoist that again, I was pretty fortunate, in such a bizarre way, that I did get to spend time with my mom.
Boy, that's cool stuff about your head coach, Mike Sullivan, and general manager, Jim Rutherford. So your team, you guys go out, and it's game 6, right? In San Jose, and you've got your broken ankle. And I can tell you, I can see it in living color right now. Obviously the dressing room, one of the few across from where the bench is in San Jose. And when you go the entrance for the visiting team to step on that ice, I mean, it's like it's like stepping off of the summit of Everest. I mean, it's so steep onto that ice surface, let alone with a broken ankle. So what do you remember about that step? And did you have any clue that your captain and your friend, Sidney Crosby, would give you the cup first?
Well, I remember that step, and I gave it a lot of thought, Trip, because I was going to be the first one to run out there. And I was like, guys, I should probably go last here. So I kind of went to the back of the line and took my time, but I did have a pound of tape wrapped around my ankle. No, you know, it was so surreal. It was, obviously I didn't know. I had no idea that he was going to do that, that the team was going to do that. And I just remember hugging and kissing everybody, like, wanting to congratulate everybody. And then it was Cooney, that Chris Kunitz that grabbed me. He's like, "Hey, you're next." When Sid went to get and I was still like, "Cooney, like, awesome, dude." Like, what are you talking about? Like, hey, leave me alone. Like, you just played. Don't worry about me. So, it was crazy. I was just like in shock. I didn't, you just like, you didn't know what to do. Like everybody, when you get to hoist the cup, you're like lost for words. Well, when the guys hand you the cup first, you're lost for words. You're just like, what do you say to that? What do you do? There's really nothing. And obviously what it did for me, with my mom, like that was her last, glimpse of me on the ice was doing that. So, I mean, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool, Trip. I tell Sid, I laugh. I'm like, you got me indebted to you for the rest of my life now. So, I'm not going anywhere, dude. So no, it was special, but it goes back to what I said before. It doesn't surprise me that Sid did that. Like, I'm not surprised. After, this long getting to know Sid and who he is as a person, that's just Sid being Sid.
It's now when I watched the Hurricanes win the cup, it was at home, and I resisted doing it, but the boys gave me no choice to go in the locker room. And it was mayhem after they won. So you're on the road, you have that. I can't even try to describe it in words, what it must have been like moment, and the connection with your mom as she's in Toronto in the hospital. When was the first time when you went back to the locker room with the cup, whether it be a text or a phone call, that you were able to talk to her after your cup hoist?
Well, yeah, it was cool. I got to the video with her on the ice while we were out there, and talked to her. I think my little sister was my little sister was at the hospital with her, and they were watching late into the night. Obviously, it was so late back in Toronto. So, no, it was obviously, you don't, at the time, you don't really realize how special it was, Trip. You really don't, because, you can never prepare for, anybody, passing away like that. So, now looking back at it, it's, you grow a lot from it for sure. I've grown a lot from that situation, and hopefully, I look back and, how special that it really was. At the time, I was like, "Mom, I'll see you later. I'm coming home soon." We'll celebrate, when I get home with it. So, and then now looking back, that obviously I never got to celebrate with the cup with her. So, that was our celebration was right there.
Were you able, if you don't mind my asking, were you, you fly back, I assume, to Pittsburgh with the team, you have parade and everything. Were you able to get back? I know not with the cup, but were you able to get back to Toronto before she passed?
Yeah. You know what? I got back, like, I think 2 days before she passed. Me and my son drove back, and I was actually, I was getting treatment back there. I flew in, I drove in to get treatment and go see her. So, and It was it was like 2 days I was back there for. So I got to see her for 2 days before she passed.
Partner, why was this? And I'm sure it was a patient, diligent decision. You can still move up and down the ice. Why was this the right time to hang up the skates?
Well, a number of different reasons, for one, the times we're in right now, it's you see like the free agents that are out there right now. There's a lot of free agents. I carry with me that I got a wife and 2 kids that are getting older, and the one thing that when you're playing this sport, Trip, as it's about you. Like, it's always about you. It's about where are we going next for daddy? What's daddy need? What is this? It was time that it's not about daddy anymore. It's the way it should be, Trip. It's about your kids, and that was the easy decision to make. I realized I've been so fortunate to play the game for this long, and the game's been so good to me. Now it's time to give to my kids, and as the kids get older, I feel the kids need to have that stability and be somewhere where their friends are, and where they're comfortable, and moving place to place at the ages that they're at, and it's an important age where they're at. So making that decision was real easy for me. Obviously, it's so it's a tough to leave the game because that's all you ever known. I just finished working out the same time you were before coming on here. You still get the fire. I'm like, I can still do this, but when I see my kids, Trip, and I see how happy they are, and that's what matters now. It's not me playing anymore. It's not me following that dream. And then you mix in that I get to come back to somewhere where obviously my family's happy first, and then this organization has been so good to me. I get to work alongside a Hall of Famer. The people here are amazing. It just felt, when these guys called, it just felt so right. When I got a call to go back and play, it didn't feel right. This felt right. So that's how I made my decision.
Well, let's make one thing real clear. The only reason I'm working out is when we start playing hockey again, so I don't continue this recent habit of splitting suit pants.
Part of my reason doing that is that too. I was like, I don't want to have to go buy some new suits right now.
Seriously, I'm right in that conundrum. I mean, last year's season, before and after the COVID pause, I think I rotated 2 pairs of pants for the entire season. It's an issue. Dales, tell me about your new role in Pittsburgh. You could have taken a break. This is very exciting. So what are you going to be doing, and what excites you the most?
Well, it's very exciting. I've been in it now for 2 months. Like I said, I have great people to work with here, to learn from. Obviously, with Jimmy, I get to work alongside of Jimmy. He's given me the ability that I could, follow a number of different steps. I could, tinker with all aspects of this side of the game, and sit in on all the meetings and listen and learn. And then, I bring what I bring, is someone that's just fresh out of the game. The kind of like a player's mentality to this side of it, being so fresh. At the same time, I get to learn. We just hired Patrick Shaleen as our assistant GM, so I've been working with him a ton. He's been amazing. He's a guy that started as an amateur scout and worked his way up to assistant GM. So picking his brain on just prospects to college free agents, just on every different side. I enjoy the part where we we have guys in our system that are trying to get to the NHL. How can I help them? That's what intrigues me the most is how to help these young guys become good pros, and how do I relay the same messages that, you know, Don Sweeney's, the Billy Guerins, you know, the Marty Turkles relayed to me. How do I relay it to these young guys in this generation now? So it's been fun, Trip. So far it's been amazing. I've been loving every second of it. You know, like I said, the people make it. You know, you get to work with great people every day. It's just easy. It's not you know, it's not hard at all. So that's one of the things I get here is to deal with amazing people every day.
I've said this the 2 times that our mutual dear friend Kevin Weeks has been on the show. I attach me to any polygraph lie detector test. Since we've been friends, Weeksy and me, I never have once thought, truthfully, I've never thought about the color of your skin. Have you even thought about the gravity of, I think when you were hired by the Penguins, you may have been the first Black executive in the National Hockey League. Have you even thought about it? Has it not occurred to you? Or if you have, what it means to you?
I mean, yeah, you know, the world we're living in today, you know, it's obviously it's a you know, a big subject, which in some cases, some reason in it, it's great that it's a subject because people are listening. It sucks that it takes, you know, some of the actions that have happened to get to this point. That's the part that sucks. You know, with me, myself, you know, I've gone through it at many different levels, on and off the ice. You know, it's unfortunate, but if, you know, if I could be a part of something that helps that no kid has to go through what I had to go through, and I say that with a grain of salt there, Trip. You know, I've obviously been very fortunate along the way. Has there been bumps? There absolutely has. But if I could help make, you know, this game better for kids, and my son that is coming up in this game who looks like his dad and wants to do the things his dad did, and you know, make sure that, you know, because of him looking like his dad, he doesn't have to worry about it. He could just play hockey. If I could help with that, you just tell me where to sign up and I'll sign up.
What do you hope the Hockey Diversity Alliance achieves?
I hope that we allow kids to go through their entire lives and not have to worry about being different. You know, for myself, having a white mom and a Black dad, growing up in the time I grew up, it was always a big deal. And I always looked at it like, why is it a big deal? Like, you know, I have family members that are Black. I have family members that are white. Well, why does that matter? You know, it was a big deal back then because there was, you know, some of those family members that were white didn't talk to my family because they didn't like my dad, and vice versa. And I was always so taken by it. Like, why does it matter? I'm just, you know, I smile and there's nobody I really dislike, you know, I like everybody. So as a kid, it was hard for me to understand and why. And, you know, my mom did a great job to, you know, protect me and to teach me about it, which was great. And now as a parent, you know, I look at my son and he's so naive to it. Like his friends he has every nationality and as a friend. And it's just, you know, as somebody that's gone through it, eventually I have to tell him, you know, explain to him that, hey, the color of your skin, people care about that. And when you say it, it's just like people care the color of your skin. Like it sounds so stupid, Trip. It really does. And that's what I hate about it, Trip. I really hate that part of it. And I hate that I have to tell him. And I do, as a parent and as somebody that has gone in the society that we're in, I have to tell him that he looks like his dad. Like there's something that this could come up, it could happen. So, that's kind of where, by what we're doing, I hope that it's not going to happen. There's no playbook for this, how to do this. It's not going to happen overnight, Trip. I understand that. But if one day, if I'm gone and, my son's kids or whatever it doesn't have to go through that, then, all this is all worth it.
You reference your son, the great TJ. Trev, I have heard, by the way, he's a pretty darn good hockey player. That's on the street. That's what my scouts are telling me. That's what I'm hearing. And I'm a straight shooter. I want to finish with two questions. A little bit, different to further this. And one of them, going back to something you said at the beginning of the episode, to all the sacrifices, your grandmother, your grandfather, of course, your mom, God rest her soul, your Uncle Donald, to make hockey affordable so you could get equipment when you were growing like a weed. I know that this question doesn't have a simple answer, but it grabbed me in the inside early in the episode, Dales. How do we make hockey affordable for all kids, boys and girls, where the ones that make it and can chase their dream, that it's never a factor whether or not they can afford what it costs to be in the game?
Well, again, and I don't have all those answers, and that's something that, the HDA is trying to help with. That's part of the initiative for the HDA, is how could we, help kids that are already in the game? How could we help grow this great game? Because at the end of the day, we're hockey players. We want to see hockey grow. At the end of the day, that we all want that. We bring up all these questions all the time, and the industry is kind of taking the game to a whole different level with it doesn't even allow these kids to, and this ain't just in hockey, it's in all sports where there's so much demand on off season, playing the game, staying in the game. So you play the hockey season, and then they want you to come to their hockey schools in the summertime, and then in the to do all these tournaments. And they're great, don't get me wrong, and I take my kids to them now because I want him to stay with it, but the game just evolved to for these kids. And when I was growing up, I played hockey for 7 months, and then I played basketball and baseball in the summertime. And these kids don't even have time to play these basketball and baseball or play any other sport. It's just the one sport. So I don't know how to help with that part of it, because it's so much, there's so many things that go into it. But if there's a way where to start where some of the kids that can't afford to play, that are that were in my situation, that have parents like my parents but don't have the supporting cast, if we could be more of that supporting cast, and help these kids with equipment, with finding ice time, I think it's going to go a long way. I think I would like to see some of these teams step up and maybe help in that situation more, where they could not just put sticks in some of these kids' hands and like go play ball hockey, but actually go the distance with some of these kids and really invest in them.
Dales, obviously the show is called Digging In. And when you look back at your experience, you never complained. And there has been so much courage, intestinal fortitude through the years of things, some of the things, the needless, the avoidable examples of systemic racism. I know, again, there's no playbook, and it's one that needs to constantly grow on the fly. But if you were to give a young boy or a girl that's chasing a hockey dream based upon your experiences the blueprint of what the proper reaction should be, if any of these instances, and hopefully they'll go away, but until we get there, of what the proper reaction is when something that shouldn't happen happens, the best way to react to it.
Well, lean on, I would say, lean on the people that love you, the people that actually care about you and love you. Lean on them. Listen to what they're telling you. It's unfortunate, if it happens, it's so unfortunate. But I think, you put a lot into in incidents that I see, not enough goes into who the victim is, or are they okay, and how are they gonna, be a lot, when stuff happens, it's always about, who did it and why they did it, and more about the culprit. But there's always a victim there too, somebody that is suffering from it. So if people could help more with that than worry about what has happened, how do you get through it, how do you put it behind you, and then how do you make it turn it into a positive? Things do happen, but how does it make you a better person because of that happening? I know in my situations, I really believe that I became a better person because of the situations that I've been through. Has made me stronger, has made me a better person. But it came from a ton of supporting cast, and that's part of one of the initiatives that the HCA wants to have too, is the supporting cast. And it's not, it's a supporting cast that looks like victims that have been a part of racism, we've talked about hotlines to call, and it's not a hotline where you just call and get just anybody. I wish that they had a hotline, and I wish my mom was alive, that some of these victims could, or these victims' parents could call this hotline and talk to my mom, because it's like people like that. I wish that they had resources like that to reach out to, and that's part of what we're trying to do. And Trip, the sad part about it is I still to this day receive calls that it's still going on. So hopefully we could get something done soon here and start getting this in the right direction.
Thanks for doing this. I love you. Good luck in the new chapter in your post-playing career. You're going to knock it out of the park.
I appreciate you. Thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.
Boy, that was powerful stuff. That's my mom. I didn't have the professional career that my man Dale's did, but let me tell you something. Like his mom, God rest her soul. My mom was a straight shooter. She dug in. She digs in to this day. I think you'd be hard-pressed, hockey fans, sports fans, to find a more dramatic story about a player's search, dedication, perseverance determination for the elusive Stanley Cup and the central role that his mom played in it, and then to have it come to the type of crescendo that it did with Trevor's mom in the ninth inning, bravely battling a cancer diagnosis and being able to see her son hoist Lord Stanley's Grail. Doesn't get any better than that. Dales, thank you for digging in with us. Where the game is in good hands with citizens like you during your playing career that has now come to its conclusion, and really exciting things, both on the ice and infinitely bigger things that transcend the sport off the ice. So good luck to you, and thank you for pulling out your shovel with us. Thank you to the great people at New Country Auto Group, elite dealerships in Connecticut, New York, Maryland, Florida. I mentioned at the top of the show, they are just opening. I don't even think it's even close. The top drawer Ferrari dealership in the United States and North America. It's a competitor from that standpoint in the world, in Naples, Florida. They don't just have Ferrari. They have BMW. They have Mercedes. They have Smart Car, Maserati, across the board. NewCountry.com. They're family owned. They're family run. They exude family in everything that they do. Also, once again, tremendous gratitude from the bottom of our hearts here at Digging In for all of you that supported Digging In merchandise at digintrip.com from Thanksgiving through New Year's, because we were able to, thanks completely to you, to write a check to the Pope Francis Center to help people down the road here in urban Detroit who need our help most. So thank you so much for allowing us to make that happen. Please continue to rate and review our show on all audio and YouTube platforms. And as we march into 2021 and we make our New Year's resolutions, let's we know without question that Digging In, it applies to all facets of life. So let's grab our shovels. Let's break it down into 24-hour, day-at-a-time periods. And if we don't dig in one day, let's make sure we don't make it a habit, and let's dig in the next. Until next week, make sure that you're doing so when you look in the mirror. Stay safe. I wish you a healthy, safe, and incredibly happy 2021. We will talk to you soon here from Digging In with Trip.
We're digging in with Trip today, yeah. Today, yeah. Today, yeah. Today.